Hey, what are you doing, man?
Nothing. Get out of here.
Fine.
Well, actually,
What?
Hey, come here.
What?
I got this jar, see?
Yeah.
And I thought it'd be really cool if you threw it on the ground, on a road,
No.
pop some tires.
No, I won't do that.
What about that math test coming up? I've got the answers. You wanna?
My grades have been... No, even if my grades aren't good, I can't take that.
Well, wanna stay up late when your parents think you're sleeping?
No, stop tempting me. Get out of here, stop. Whew, that was a lot of temptation I endured. You see, when God's people endure, it produces character.
Today, we continue our adventure with Joseph. The last time we were with Joseph, he had just been sold into slavery by his own brothers. He's traveled across the desert in a caravan of slave traders, and he's just entered the foreign land of Egypt. He doesn't know what's going to happen to him. In the short time we've known Joseph, he has had to endure a lot. But we know when God's people endure, it produces character. Our story picks up in Genesis 39 in the land of Egypt. When Joseph was taken to Egypt by the Ishmaelite traders, he was purchased by Potiphar, an Egyptian officer. Potiphar was captain of the guard for Pharaoh, the king of Egypt. So the man that purchases Joseph as a slave in his household was a really powerful man. He was the captain of Pharaoh's guard, and Joseph goes to live in his house. So we're going to picture this as Potiphar's house, and Joseph is a servant in the household. Now, he is the lowest servant because he's brand new, and he has to do all the dirty jobs a servant would have to do. Cleaning up after everyone, maybe he scrubbed floors, maybe he cleaned toilets, all of the gross stuff that a servant would have to do. But Joseph endured, and we know that when God's people endure, it builds character. And Joseph did everything he was told to do and worked really hard in Potiphar's house. Now, Potiphar took notice of something that was going on with Joseph. God was with Joseph. And everything that Joseph did, whether it was cleaning, taking care of a garden, cleaning up after dirty animals, no matter what Joseph did, everything he did succeeded. Every area of the house he touched got better. Every animal he took care of was the strongest animal because God was with him. So Potiphar had an idea. If every little thing I've put Joseph in charge of is getting great, I should put him in charge of more things, right? So he moved Joseph up in the household. See, when Joseph endured, it built character. He was hardworking. Potiphar noticed and promoted him. Well, Joseph continued to do a great job. He was very responsible with everything Potiphar gave him. Potiphar gave him more things to do, and he took responsibility for it. He worked really hard, and guess what? God was with him. Joseph endured, and it built character because when God's people endure, it produces character. So he was responsible, and Potiphar noticed and gave him more responsibility and put him in charge of more things. Then Joseph showed wisdom in taking care of Potiphar's finances. He got to run Potiphar's money in his household, and Potiphar's money began to grow because God was with him. Joseph showed wisdom. Joseph endured, and when God's people endure, it builds character. So Potiphar put him in charge of everything in the household. Joseph endured, showed that he had character that was trustworthy, and got to run everything in Potiphar's home. Joseph endured his slavery, and it built character, because when God's people endured, it builds character. It says later in Genesis 39, this pleased Potiphar, so he soon made Joseph his personal attendant. He put him in charge of his entire household and everything he owned. From the day Joseph was put in charge of his master's household and property, the Lord began to bless Potiphar's household for Joseph's sake. And all his household affairs ran smoothly, and his crops and livestock flourished. So Potiphar gave Joseph complete administrative responsibility over everything he owned. With Joseph there, he didn't worry about a thing except what kind of food to eat. Can you imagine that? Joseph endured, and it produced character. Now, we know that Joseph's story is a really big adventure, and his character is about to face its biggest test. He's about to face a temptation. A temptation is when something comes to us that we might want to do, but we know is wrong. And this temptation is about to come at the hands of Potiphar's wife. She was not godly and did not have character. You see, every day she would come to Joseph and say that she wanted to kiss him. Can you believe that? She's married. That's a huge no-no. And Joseph knew it. But Joseph was trustworthy, and he was wise, and he was responsible. He knew that it was wrong, and every day Joseph would tell Potiphar's wife no. And he resisted the temptation. He endured. And when God's people endure, it produces character. And his trustworthiness and loyalty to Potiphar grew. He was honest. He did what was right. It kind of reminds me of another story in the Bible. So if we flip over from Genesis all the way over to the New Testament in Matthew chapter 4, there's a story about Jesus facing temptation and someone asking him to do something that was wrong. Jesus was tempted. He was in the wilderness in the desert. He had gone there to pray and be alone, and in very serious prayer had decided not to eat for many, many days, just so he could focus on prayer. And while he was there, Satan himself shows up to tempt Jesus. He comes to Jesus and tempts him with 3 things. The first thing he tempts him with is bread. He hadn't eaten for many days. That would be very tempting. And Jesus says, no. He was not going to focus on food. He was focusing on God and on prayer. Then Satan tempts Jesus to show off his power in Jerusalem and show all the people how amazing he was. But Jesus says, no. Then Satan tempts him with all of the kingdoms and all the riches of the world. And Jesus says, no. Jesus showed us how to endure and how it produces character. Now, going back to the story of Joseph, Joseph's temptation gets even stronger because Potiphar's wife, who was not godly and did not have character, decides to make the temptation even worse. In a moment when Joseph was by himself and there was no one to help him, Potiphar's wife grabs him by the arm and says, "Give me a kiss now." Joseph says no, but Potiphar's wife would not let him go. So do you know what he did? He ran away so fast, he left his coat behind, ran straight out of his coat. Can you even believe it? Joseph endured, and it produced character. When God's people endure, it produces character. Ran straight out of his coat. But here's the thing. It made Potiphar's wife very angry, and she decided to get back at Joseph. When Potiphar got home that day, she devised a very evil plan and decided to lie to Potiphar about what Joseph had done. She told Potiphar that Joseph had tried to kiss her, and here's his coat to prove it. The sad thing is, Potiphar believed the lie and had Joseph thrown into prison. Dun, dun, dun. We're going to leave off the story there and continue with our adventure of Joseph next week. We'll see what happens.
So, temptation comes in a variety of ways. Have you ever wondered what it'd be like for kids to be tempted by marshmallows? Today we're going to watch. We have 2 kids who happily volunteered to eat the marshmallows today that I set in front of them. But there was one little twist. They couldn't eat it until I came back into the room. How do you think that went? Let's find out. Don't eat it yet. Just wait. We'll be right back. Wait. We'll be right back.
Don't eat it.
Don't eat it yet.
I don't eat it? No, don't eat it. No. I can't eat that. Your hands are so. No, don't eat it yet. Don't eat it yet. No. It's kisses.
Good job, buddy. Is it good? Proud of you. Nice. Want another one? Nice. Joseph was tempted. Jesus was tempted. Us, we get tempted. And it's not always cute and silly like fighting off the urge of soft, sweet, plushy marshmallows. But it is going to happen. It's going to happen a lot. See, our enemy, he doesn't like the fact that he lost. The victory is won, and the victor is God, and he doesn't like that. So what he does is he learns what makes us tick, and he tries to use it against us. He tries to make us slip up and sin. He doesn't like that he lost. So he pulls out his old bag of tricks and presents us with something that we might want via temptation, through temptation. And actually, there was once a time where food tempted me. And I gave in. I'm gonna tell you about it, but disclaimer, don't do it, because it didn't work out for me. See, when I was rather young, let's say about kindergarten, first grade, I went to an after-school program at a gymnastics building. And it was the coolest thing because we can jump on trampolines, we can jump into foam pits, we can climb ropes. There were video games that we could play, TVs we can watch movies on, and a snack area with almost any snack you can think of. And the snacks weren't even expensive. They're like 50 cents for a piece of candy, $1 for a really big snack. But my mom didn't always give me money because she gave me food. Well, one day, a friend of mine suggested a really unique plan where we could get snacks whenever we want, whether or not we had the money. So the plan was, don't do this. The plan was that when no one was looking, we'd reach our hand in the money jar and take out $1 and then put that $1 in our backpack. And then later, when no one's looking, we'd pull it out and say, hey, can I go get a snack? Well, I mulled it over, considered it, I thought about it. And by the time I decided that, yeah, I'm gonna take this $1, our afternoon teacher came in and she saw me with that $1. And all those fun things I love, the foam pits, the trampolines, the movies, the video games, I didn't get to participate in any of that. And then on top of that, when my mom came to pick me up, I was even in more trouble. I was tempted and I gave in. And the worst part wasn't that my mom was mad that I stole, but that she was disappointed in me. She trusted me, and I broke that trust. Because I didn't endure through that temptation, my character was affected. When God's people endure temptation, it builds character. It produces character. For me, when I made that choice, I had to rebuild my trust with my mom. I had to show her what my character truly was. And my lesson for you guys today is when you're faced with that temptation, to endure and watch what kind of character it produces.
Hey guys, today we learned a lot about Joseph and his really big adventure. I have a couple questions I'd love to ask you to see how much you remember. First question, who bought Joseph out of slavery? Was it Oscar, Potiphar, or Homer? Take a second, think about the answer, shout it out if you got it. You said Potiphar. I know you did. You're correct. Question number 2. What character traits did Joseph display while he endured? Was it A, hardworking, B, wise, C, responsibility, D, trust, or E, all of the above. It was E, all of the above. Hardworking, wise, responsible, and trustworthy. Great character traits to have. Number 3 is a true or false statement. Let's see if you can get it right. Joseph left his shoes behind when he ran away from Potiphar's wife. Give you a second to answer. It's false. Do you know what it was? If you said coat, you got it right. Joseph left his coat behind as he ran away from Potiphar's wife. This week, we've learned about how endurance in God's people produces character. When we endure through temptations, trials, hardships, other different things like that, it produces character in us. This week, I want to challenge you to take on one of the character traits I'm going to list right now. Love. You know what love is, but I want to challenge you, even when others aren't lovable, love them anyway. Or peace. Peace is really hard. If you're not getting along with your brother and sister, it can be really hard to keep the peace. Or patience. Maybe you've got a really little sibling that just tries your patience all the time. Patience is one of the hardest character traits to endure through. And gentleness. Gentleness, it's kind of hard. Like maybe your little brother or sister broke one of your toys, and your immediate reaction wants to be one of anger or frustration. Gentleness would be taking the time to slow down, understand the problem, and then, lovingly talk to your brother or sister about that. And lastly, this one's tough. Self-control. It's one I struggle with, that's for sure, because I eat a whole plate of marshmallows today, and I don't feel so good after that. So I want you to remember that when God's people endure, it produces character. This week, try one of those character traits on and see how you do. Have a great week.